Vasily Lomachenko calls out Gervonta Tank Davis about his resume. He says that Tank just doesn't have a great resume. Lomachenko's obviously fighting George Kambosos real soon. That fight's coming up, and I think it's going to be a good one. But obviously, I picked Lomachenko to win. I feel like Kambosos has had a good run, but I also think that Loma still has what it takes to potentially stop George Kambosos. So we'll see what happens with that. But as far as Tank's resume goes, I think it's a pretty interesting shot that Lomachenko took at Tank because Loma talked about the fact that he was asked in an interview about Tank, and he said that he would have expected Tank to have fought better opposition by now, and he's kind of got a point because, like, let's be real, as much as I like Tank, I think the time is now to make a big fight happen, and it just hasn't happened yet for whatever reason. I think Tank is ready for a big challenge. It's just maybe the personal life, everything going outside with his legal issues has maybe prevented him from getting the proper training camp. He's been very vocal on social media about judges. He had an ankle monitor and he wasn't able to train the way he wanted to, where he wanted to, so that complicates things for sure. But I think we're all waiting for a big Tank fight, and I think if, let's say, Vasily Lomachenko beats George Kambosos, he becomes champ at 35, why not fight Shakur Stevenson? Or if he doesn't get that fight, then you have to, there's no other option but Tank, because we were always talking about Gervonta Davis fighting Devin Haney, but obviously Devin's campaigning at 140, and when that fight comes to the table, Tank doesn't want that fight at 40. He'd rather bring Devin Haney down and wait a little bit at a catchweight like he probably did to Ryan Garcia, but he's gonna have a hard time doing that because Devin Haney actually has hardware, and it would just be a tough negotiation process. So if anything, if that fight ever happens between Devin Haney and Tank Davis, it's gonna have to happen at 140, and that's just being realistic. So a big fight for Vasily Lomachenko and Tank, at 135, that's a big matchup, because we've been honestly waiting for that for the last 5-6 years, in my opinion. That's the fight I wanted to see. I wanted to see Tank get tested by someone with a high IQ who has that ability to switch up the angles, and as a southpaw, what trouble could he give to Tank? And obviously Vasily Lomachenko, he's not the biggest 35er. He's actually a pretty small 35er. I always say that Loma belongs at 30. He's a natural 30 pounder, and he cleans out that division, but it's just Tank might be a little bit too big. He might hit a little bit too hard. So I find it hard to believe that Lomachenko would beat Tank, but it's good opposition. It wouldn't shock me in major fashion. It's just with the power of Tank, it just when all else is equal in terms of the boxing ability and the IQ, and I think Tank hasn't been given the credit he deserves in terms of his actual boxing ability. I think someone has to bring that out of him, and no opponent has forced him to do it. Every fighter just essentially comes forward like Ryan Garcia did, like Rolly Romero did, and they all paid the ultimate price. If you're in front of him, if you're gonna stand in front of Tank, you're gonna get stopped. That's just the reality of the situation. And Lomachenko, I would expect him to be a bit more strategic. Obviously, I'm not looking past his fight with George Kambosos, but I do expect him to win that. So I'm just kind of thinking about the future in terms of what other fights are out there for Lomachenko, because let's be real, he's coming down to the back end of his career. He's definitely not in his prime anymore. He's still a big name. The last thing to leave a fighter is his power, but I think in Lomachenko's case, it's his brain that's going to be his biggest asset against a guy like Tank. It's his experience, having so many amateur fights, and then being against a guy like Devin Haney, being against all these fighters, Jermaine Ortiz, like difficult stylistic matchups, Teofimo Lopez. Going through all that, I think that Lomachenko is very well versed in this sport, especially at this point in his career. And I think, Gervonta Tank Davis is the only name that he's going to really make a bag off of at 135. The Shakur fight's big as well. That's probably a more realistic fight just because, that fight can easily be made with Shakur and Lomachenko both with Top Rank, and, Bob Arum could probably make that fight happen, especially if, Lomachenko's on his way out. Why not make, one last hurrah, one last bang, and, just end it on a crazy and special note. Make that Lomachenko and Shakur fight happen. But obviously, we have Tank Davis fighting Frank Martin, or at least that's what we heard. We haven't even gotten a date yet. So if that falls through, we've seen, fights with Tank. We've seen fights with Frank Martin fall through. So I'd be excited to see Vasily Lomachenko and Tank get it on, assuming that Lomachenko handles business against George Kambosos, because I think that's a big fight. I'd like to see it, but it's ultimately, Tank. I think it's up to Tank. Does he really want that? And for Top Rank to make a fight with Al Heyman and GTD, Gervonta Tank Davis's promotions, I don't know how easy that would be. It would probably be more difficult than anything, but I really do want to see that fight. I think it's just a good matchup. Lomachenko he's been that guy for so long that they always talk about how his father took him out from the sport of boxing when he was a kid to learn traditional Russian dance and to work on his footwork. That stuff's very interesting, but against a guy like Tank, how does it translate? How does it transfer into a fight with a guy who has a lot of power? He's never faced a guy with power like Tank. I think Teofimo Lopez is very explosive, a very explosive fighter, but I think Tank is explosive and he has that one shot. I just need to land something and touch you, and you're probably gonna quit after that. That's been the story. That's been the tale. Of every other fight that Tank's been in. Everybody's tough. All these guys are, tough boxers. There's no such thing as a bum in this sport of boxing. You don't make it to a bright stage. You don't make it to a main event or a pay-per-view fight being a bum. But ultimately, there's levels, of course, and Tank just might be on another level than these guys. And I think there's a very select few that can really hang with him in there. And Lomachenko is one of them. Devin's another. Teofimo potentially, and definitely Shakur Stevenson. I think, Tank's in his prime right now. He's honestly the older of the bunch besides Lomachenko, and I think now's the time for Tank to have these big fights, because if not now, are you going to wait till he's like 32, 33? Then people, he's going to run out of even more time. I think now's the time to really capitalize on what's going on, But Lomachenko talking about how Tank doesn't have the best resume, I don't know. I feel like Tank has just, made everyone look so easy. I don't think they're no names. They're definitely not no names. Guys like Leo Santa Cruz, guys like Pedraza, Isak Cruz. Isak Cruz kind of got his name off of Tank, but Rolly Romero was a big name. Ryan Garcia was already a big name. So, and then going to fight a guy like Frank Martin, I think if he fights Frank and then beats him, then all that narrative of his that Tank's resume isn't that good should kind of be shut down. If he beats Tank in convincing fashion, if he doesn't struggle, because I think it's a tough test. I don't think Tank has faced a guy like this, but also you have to compare. It's like apples to oranges. It's different when it comes to comparing skill and being a draw, because Ryan Garcia is a draw, but I don't think he had the ability that Frank does to test Tank. So that's why I think it's an interesting fight. But I'd like to see Lomachenko and Tank in the future, but Loma kind of disses Tank's resume. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. I'm a fan of both guys. I'd love to see them get it on in the future and figure this out, because it'd be a great fight. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace. That's going to do it for another Nads Fight Media video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's been your boy, Matt Nabong, with another video. Hope you guys enjoyed it all. Thank you guys for the constant support. Salute to y'all always. It's been your boy.